Hey guys, welcome back to the Pathways to Happiness podcast. My name is Nena. I'm a life coach that specializes in personal development and life improvement. And I want to take a moment to just thank you so much for joining me today, not only here, but also on my YouTube channel, because it's just so wonderful to have the opportunity to really dig deep into topics that I feel have such a powerful impact on the quality of our lives. Today I wanted to discuss a topic that I hear about over and over again from my clients, and that's of the concept of being haunted by the past. Now, I feel that everyone has something in their mind somewhere that they regret or that they're ashamed of. There's some event that was traumatic enough for us, at least internally, to feel the need to really relive it over and over again in our mind. So, in that sense, we are all really haunted by the past. But something we have to remember is that the past is just a concept. It's a concept of a memory from a moment that no longer exists. So, let me say that again. It's a concept of a memory from a moment that no longer exists. But yet, so many of us experience the pain of these events as if they were happening to us right at this moment now. So a lot of times we can be going about our day and we think that we have forgotten about these events, but they can just kind of pop up at any time or be triggered by something really small like a television commercial or even a certain smell. But as soon as we get that little reminder, we get sucked back into the black hole where we feel like it's all happening for us again. It makes us feel hopeless, like we have no control over our lives, like that singular experience is the only thing that will ever matter for us. So our lives can actually be very, very positive. We can have some really wonderful elements to our lives and amazing accomplishments or achievements, but still we end up focusing on that one specific event or sometimes clusters of events. But these experiences really draw the focus of our entire lives. Now, there's three types of events that can really cause this to happen. So the first one is when someone did something to us that still hurts. So we have an emotional scar that we feel someone else is to blame for. The second type of event is when we did something personally that we haven't forgiven ourselves for, something that was maybe out of our moral character or our value system, or we feel that we harmed someone in some way. And the third thing is if an event that was beyond our control happened that we feel wasn't fair. So it could be anything from a natural disaster that affected us, or a career that fell through, but something external that we feel was unjustified and unfair for us. So all three of these situations can feel very, very suffocating and be very difficult to get past. And oftentimes what happens is it creates a negativity loop that plays in our mind. So it could be something that we are very consciously aware of. We know we are thinking about these things. We are thinking about them on a regular basis, or we try to kind of repress these events. So they are playing subconsciously in the back of our mind, but we keep trying to push them away. And what happens when we try to suppress these past events is we're doing it because we feel that bringing them to the surface is just too painful. So we are trying to quiet them down. But when we do this, it really is not effective whatsoever. It's going to come up in various situations and usually at very inconvenient times. So we definitely want to address these issues, but sometimes we feel that we're not emotionally strong enough to do so. The problem with that is that our current behavior becomes very affected by our past. So we're going to actually make choices to avoid the pain of facing it. So it can be really very inconvenient. So we're going to stay away from the people and the places that remind us of this event. We're going to start to structure our whole life around avoiding thinking and experiencing the pain from this event again. Now, the ironic part about this is that even though we are going to great measures to avoid this pain, we are probably bringing this up in our mind all the time. So either way, we are experiencing the pain of this event in present time, even though it is from the past. So we can see clearly that holding on to these negative emotions and these negative experiences to this degree can start to really cause problems to both our emotional and physical health. So dwelling on the past really does nothing but cause further pain. So we're also giving these experiences the power to control our emotions. Now, when we are in a more emotionally healthy state, we can realize that we actually have the power to control our emotions and not the reverse. But when you are coming from that place of desperation, where you feel that you can't go forward in your life because of all these things that are really haunting you, it is essential that you begin to address these issues so that you can go forward. So that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. Making the decision to let it go and bringing ourselves back into a new reality, to the present moment where we are not carrying the baggage of our past with us. Now, that seems really easy to say, but very difficult to do, and I understand that. But today we're really going to walk through the process that's going to make this really, truly a possibility for us. The fact of the matter is that we simply must forgive ourselves. And a lot of times we just are bringing it up again and again to simply punish ourselves because we feel very guilty and we feel that we deserve punishment. So if that is not coming externally, we're going to find ways to punish ourselves to try to handle that guilt. So we can understand logically why this is happening, but we can also understand how damaging that is to our own selves. We really need to understand that no person is without fault. Other people may hide their faults, but they are always there. We have to understand that mistakes or bad experiences are not a life sentence to misery. We can and we should get past these experiences. And here's why. We can offer absolutely nothing to this world when we are living in our own head. We can't help others, we can't help ourselves, we can't contribute, and we can't grow. Digging up the past only causes further pain. So please know you are not helping yourself by holding on to this. You are not gaining from it in any way. And neither are the people around you, because you're not going to be yourself. You are going to be miserable. And you are certainly, if you're feeling guilty, not helping another person by holding on to the guilt. They're probably not even aware that you are feeling the guilt, and it is not constructive in any way. So instead, let's talk about some healthy ways, some healing ways to really start to work through these issues. And the first step of this is to address it. So find a safe space and a safe time to do this, to really sit with yourself and schedule it. This is going to be the time and the one time only that you are going to really focus on this issue for the last time. So when this happens, the first thing that we're going to do when we are addressing it is to look for any lessons and learn from the lessons if there is any. So this is going to be much more applicable probably if it is an experience or an event that you feel that you contributed to. So if this was, again, a natural disaster or something that someone else did to you, there may be less of a lesson or there may be no lesson attached to it. But you do want to consider the possibility that it is there. Now, if this is from an event that you feel responsible for, certainly there is at least one lesson that you can learn. And probably the first lesson is that You know now that you don't want to operate outside of your own morality. And that's not saying that at the moment of the experience, you felt that you were acting outside of your morality. This is something that you could have discerned much later. You have to also remember that when we are inside an experience, when the experience is happening in the current moment, we are always only acting on the information that we have at the time, and we are acting from a standpoint of what we feel will be the least painful at that time. So oftentimes there are events that happen that we look back on and we have no idea how we could have possibly responded in that way. In retrospect, it seems ridiculous, it seems reprehensible, but keep in mind that at that moment, it wasn't. At that moment, you honestly felt it was the right option. So if nothing else, it's going to show you the contrast about what you don't want for your life to what you do want for your life. So if you feel that you acted outside of your own morality, then you know now that you want to make choices that are more in alignment to your own personal values. And personal values certainly differ greatly from person to person, but that is something that you can definitely take away from it. So you have to look for all the lessons, including that one, if that one is a factor for you, but there's probably other things that you learned. You know, everything in our life is a lesson. We learn something every single moment of our lives. And, you know, we start to see these themes emerge in our lives. And a lot of times the universe is really trying to teach us a concept, and it will keep showing up for us until we truly address it. So look for the lessons. That's the first step. The second step, the most important step of all, is to forgive yourself. Now, if you are feeling haunted by, again, things that were not of your control, you may not feel a lot of self-blame, but you still actually might. And in the circumstances that you feel that you contributed to, you definitely are holding blame. So you want to forgive yourself for any blame you are putting on yourself, because this event was in the past when you were a different person that made different choices. You are a new person now, and to start fresh, you've got to clean the slate. And self-forgiveness is oftentimes very, very tricky. It's very interesting. I find with my clients that it is often much easier for them to forgive other people for doing even things that were much bigger offenses in comparison. But we are reluctant to offer that forgiveness oftentimes to our own self. But we have to, because we have to move on. So whatever that takes for you, whatever process you need to start that process now, because forgiveness may not happen for you overnight, but it needs to happen. And in the cases where you feel that the offense was on the other person, starting to forgive that person is going to actually take the burden off of you as well. Remember also that they are not without fault. No person is without fault. Nobody is perfect. Everyone is making mistakes all the time. But when we are holding grudges against other people, we are really punishing ourselves. And as time, we really need to free ourselves. So the next thing that we can do in this process is to consider that there are amends that could be made. So are there people that you need to say that you're sorry to? Are there things that are under your control that could make the situation somewhat better? And this may not be the case. That may not be a possibility, but if it's possible to make amends in any type of way, that's something that you can consider as well, because that is something external that generally does make us feel better when it is a possibility. Another thing that we can do is to put reminders away from that experience. And you'll be surprised at how much the subconscious is actually picking up on. It really attaches a lot of things that we haven't considered to these events. So it could be even a piece of clothing. It could be a perfume you are wearing. It could be physical things in your household, such as pictures or pieces of art or letters that you're keeping. It could be anything, but reminders of that event need to go. And I'm not saying that you need to throw them away necessarily. Oftentimes it's helpful when you do so, but if there are things that you can't part with, that's understandable, but you definitely want them to be out of view. So put reminders away so you are not bringing your attention back to these events again and again and again. So once we've done kind of these external things, we need to do some internal things. So the first thing is noticing when we are thinking about these events. So you'll find that you're probably thinking about this event way more often than you realize. So we realize we're thinking about it sometimes, but we're probably not realizing all the time that we're spending really thinking about these events and really going over them again and again and again. So once we have the self-awareness that we are bringing these things up and really ruminating over them, you want to try to interrupt it. We want to break the pattern. So when you notice that you're thinking about this topic, you're going to bring your awareness to that and you're going to try to interrupt it. Now from there, it's helpful to create what I call an anchor thought. Now, what this is a thought that we are going to design ahead of time that's going to be a replacement thought for every time we think of this negative event. So it can be an empowering statement. It could be a thought about the future that makes you happy. It could be just a more positive memory, or you can think about the situation and kind of rewrite it in a more positive way in your mind, and you're going to think about it that way instead. So another thing that you can do with an anchor thought is to attach a visual picture to it. And I do this, and I'm not sure why I chose this particular visual image, but for me, it's a maple leaf. When I think about the experience in my life that causes me the most pain, when I catch myself thinking about it, I think about this maple leaf. And this maple leaf for me is symbolic of change and growth and new direction in my life. So I created a visual anchor that has a mental connection for me to something very positive. So I spend just a few moments thinking about this maple leaf, what it is for me, and I bring my awareness to the new pattern of thought that I want to replace that negative thought pattern with. So you want to go ahead and design this anchor thought now, ahead of time, before you're going and slipping back into that negativity loop. So you have something ahead of time that you know is going to be your comfort. So it could be a mental image of a dove or a rainbow or whatever it is for you, a child, anything that makes you feel happy or at peace, something that brings comfort to you. And with that, you are going to attach the new replacement thought that is going to be something that is extremely empowering and uplifting to you. So you want to think about the question, how do I want to feel? So we know we're feeling pain when we think about these events, but how do I want to feel instead? And you want to create and design a thought that makes you feel that specific way. And that is going to be your anchor thought. Now, if you have different experiences that get brought up in your mind, you want to have more pre-planned anchor thoughts. So you want to have an anchor thought that is pre-designed, that addresses all these different issues in your life that cause you suffering. And then the goal here is to eventually try to detach from the event. We need to remind ourselves that this is no longer real. It seems so obvious, But yet, to our subconscious, it doesn't really understand that because we keep bringing it up. It feels like it is a live event that is happening now. So we must, again, detach from it and remind ourselves that this is no longer a situation. This is a moment in time that is floating around in space that no longer exists now. It can only exist if we bring it up. So, another thing that we can do is to rewrite the story from another perspective because we keep looking at it in the same way. And the perception of events from person to person is entirely different. That's why two people, for example, can witness a crime and have two completely different statements written about what happened in that crime. We all perceive things in completely different ways based on our own perception of reality, based on our own past situations and events and our own personality types. So what that means is the perspective that we are viewing this particular situation is not necessarily the truth. So if something isn't necessarily the truth, let's rewrite it into something that could be more positive for us. So I'm not saying to deny a real life situation, but we can look at it from a different perspective and reframe it. So if we go through this process enough times and we repeat it, that memory starts to lose power, or it gets turned into something that is less threatening to us because we are going to control how we feel about it. We are going to design the emotion that we are going to feel whenever this gets brought up for us. So again, it starts to lose power and we start to gain control. The past needs to go back to the past where it belongs. That's the only place where it exists. It does not deserve or belong in this present moment now. There is no reason at all to consistently create our own suffering. It is time to let these experiences go. Know that you are worthy, you are enough, you are a good person. Just because a bad experience happened to you or you did something that was maybe not the best, it does not mean that you yourself are a bad person. You have to separate the experience from who you are. Remember, life is short. We don't have that much time here, so we can't spend our precious time ruminating over things that we can't control. Our focus needs to go to areas of our life that we can control. And guess what that is? The only thing we can control is the present moment. So we need to be mindful. And whenever these thoughts start to intrude our mind, we need to interrupt the pattern, think about our anchor thought, and move forward in a positive direction. And that's the last tip I want to give you about being haunted by the past. That is creating positive actions. So when we are focused on things that are good and that are happy and that are bringing joy to other people, it's very difficult to keep negativity in our life because what we focus on grows. We give momentum to whatever we are thinking about. So if we are thinking about things that are uplifting, more and more uplifting things are going to happen. More positivity is going to come into our life. So look for ways to take positive action. And a lot of times, it doesn't have to be for ourselves. It can be for the good of other people. And that actually is a quicker way to start feeling better because nothing actually makes us feel more positive than doing good. So if we are doing good in the world and we're doing good for other people, we're going to start to feel a lot better about our own lives. So look for those opportunities. Look for opportunities to volunteer or to help out in some way, but to be a force of positivity and not just for other people. absolutely for yourself. You need to create a positive life and a positive mindset for yourself so that you know that life is good. Life has possibilities. Life is not a prison sentence that was given to you based on past events. Every day is a brand new day, and you have control of your experiences that day and your thoughts that day. So your pattern of behavior is up to you, and you get to decide what type of life that you want to lead. So it's time to cut the ties to the negative events of the past because they don't deserve to control your life anymore. Take that control back of your life. Start today. Just go through this process every single time, and it's going to get easier, and soon it's not going to be something that you even need to consciously do. It will be happening for you. So I truly hope today's message was helpful and healing for you. And I thank you so much for spending time with me today. I greatly look forward to spending time with you next time. And until then, I truly hope you have an amazing day.